JT Tuimoloau is going to be one of the most divided among players among Detroit Lions fans in this draft class. Whether they draft him or not, there's going to be a lot of people saying that he's quite good and a lot of people saying that he is absolutely horrible. In reality, he's probably somewhere in the middle. And today, with being a very real possibility for the Detroit Lions in this draft class, we're going to take a look at JTT, the senior product from Ohio State, and talk about whether he'd be a good fit for the Lions, what he does very well, and why he may be one of the better options for the Lions on day 2 of the NFL draft. Now, before we get into it, I do want to take a second, just say leave your comments down below about JTT. Do you think he's a good player? Do you think he's a bad player? Where would you draft him in the draft, if at all possible? What pick do you feel comfortable spending on the edge rusher from Ohio State? And just leave your comments down below about the prospect that you want to see. You can also leave comments of other players you want to see in future videos. But with that being said, giving you a second to do so, let's get into the senior product from Ohio State. As throughout his 4 years, he was really good. Standing at 6'4", 265 pounds, JTT had a good career. Not a great career, but a good one. The former 5-star pick totaled 144 tackles at Ohio State with 45 tackles for loss, 23 and a half sacks, 2 interceptions, 10 passes defended, 3 forced fumbles, and 2 fumble recoveries. His senior season was by far his best. With the opportunity to come out and go into the NFL draft a season ago, he decided to return to school, went back to Ohio State, wanted to win a national championship, wanted to take that next step forward as a pass rusher, and I would say he certainly did those things. Of course, won the national championship, but in his career, took a big step forward from a production standpoint. His freshman, sophomore, and junior seasons all felt very underwhelming. Outside of the Penn State games, he really didn't seem like a big problem, didn't seem like a big threat, didn't seem like that consistent pass rusher. But in 2024, he turned into exactly that. With 61 tackles, 22 tackles for loss, 12 and a half sacks, 3 passes defended, 2 forced fumbles, and 22 hurries on 14 quarterback hits, JTT was phenomenal last season, and in particular, his playoff run was just as good, if not better, than Jack Sawyer's run. With 6.5 sacks and 10 tackles for loss in the college football playoffs, along with 2 passes defended, he was one of the biggest reasons as to why Ohio State went on their 4-game win streak to take home the national championship trophy. And with JTT being a former 5-star player, with him playing at Ohio State for 4 seasons and finally putting together a great productive performance, there are a lot of strengths to his game. There's a reason he's going to be a top 50, top 60 selection in this class. And there are a lot of reasons to be excited about him if he does join the Lions. In particular, his size, speed, and power are incredibly impressive. He is, again, 6'4", 265 pounds. He rushes with a ton of power, is able to collapse the pocket, be a game wrecker, cause havoc, and get the quarterback off his spot pretty consistently with the Ohio State Buckeyes. His arms are very long, which really goes with that power and allows him to get his hands on the offensive lineman's chest. He's got good feet to pair with those hands. He's got good technique. And being at Ohio State for so long does have a number of pass rushing moves that he can use to get through or around offensive linemen. Now, he, of course, is not a perfect prospect, does have a number of weaknesses, a lot of that being his agility, his finesse rushing, right? His ability to really bend a corner, to get around the offensive lineman, and to, be I guess, the Von Miller or the James Houston of this draft class, right? We talked about Donovan Ezaraku a few days ago as a player that really didn't fit the Lions because he was that finesse rusher, because he was the guy that would go around. He would be the guy that, always tried to go outside and always tried to bend that corner. JTT is almost the exact opposite. He would rather go inside and fight his way through multiple linemen. He would rather go through an offensive lineman's chest with a bull rush, with a power rush, than he would ever want to do going outside and being that finesse rusher. And while some people are going to like that and some people aren't, that is the player that the Detroit Lions like. They like those big, powerful defensive end type players that can stop the run, that can set an edge and go through an offensive tackle. And that's not to say that JTT can't turn the edge. It's not to say that he can't get around the offensive tackle, because we've seen it before and we've seen that he can do it. But that's not the strength of his game. That's not where he's going to impress you on tape. That's not where he is going to stand out as a defensive lineman. What stands out is his power. What stands out is his relentlessness. What stands out is his hands. What stands out is just his chaotic pass rushing style that forces quarterbacks to be uncomfortable and forces them really off their spot in a hurry. Pairing him with Aiden Hutchinson would give the Detroit Lions a really solid front four across that defensive line. He kind of reminds me quite a bit of Marcus Davenport as well if he could stay healthy. Just a big, good, powerful run stopper that can get to the quarterback probably 8 to 10 times a season and be a great edge rusher too across the line from your edge rusher one. There are players that remind me quite a bit of JT Tuimoloau, but one on the Detroit Lions in particular really stood out to me. Watching him bull rush through the offensive line, watching him set the edge really well, he reminded me a lot of a player that's already on the Detroit Lions, a player that found himself in a really similar situation coming out of college, but a player that never really took that final step. And that player is Josh Paschal, right? Josh Paschal, coming out of Kentucky, was a versatile defensive lineman. He was very powerful, didn't have the best bend, was a great run stopper, and of course had the injury concerns that JTT does not. But you look at them as players, you look at their strengths and their weaknesses, you look at how they get to the quarterback, you look at how they defend the run, and they are incredibly similar players. Now, a lot of Lions fans are going to say, absolutely not. We do not need another Josh Paschal, but they aren't one-to-one comparisons, right? Athletically, JTT is far superior to Josh Paschal as a player. It's just a play style that they share. And honestly, even as a Lions fan, right? Imagine Josh Paschal if he was a little bigger, a little faster, a little more powerful and healthy all season long. If you could rely on Josh Paschal to be healthy every single game while being a little more productive through the pass rush, I think a lot of people would take that. And a lot of people are going to say no because it's hard to imagine Josh Paschal being that type of player. But JTT is. JTT is Josh Paschal. If in his final year at Kentucky, he did break out. He did have that great statistical double-digit sack season, right? And it's never a step that Josh Paschal was able to take. He wasn't able to do it at Kentucky. He hasn't been able to do it in the NFL. But Josh Paschal, even last year for the Lions, was a fantastic run defender, one of the best edge setters that the Lions have, and probably one of the better edge setters across the NFL. And even though his pass rushing numbers aren't going to wow you, his run stopping ability is something that will keep him on the Detroit Lions for a number of years. Taking a look a little further at this pro comparison, of course, Josh Paschal stands at 6'3", 270 pounds. In his final season at Kentucky in 2021, he totaled 53 tackles, 16 tackles for loss, 5.5 sacks, and a forced fumble. That is almost exactly what JT Tuimoloau did his junior season at Ohio State. From the limited sack numbers, but the big TFL numbers, good amount of tackles, a forced fumble, a couple of big plays and turnovers. That is what JTT was at Ohio State. But in his final season, he took a step forward. He finished with 61 tackles, 22 TFLs, 12.5 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. He is an inch bigger. He is almost the exact same weight. So looking at JTT, of course, being an Ohio State Buckeye, a lot of Lions fans are going to have their, hesitations with him. But looking at him as a player, he looks like a Lions player. He looks like what Detroit Lions, Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes love to bring in at their offensive lineman. He's big, he's heavy, he's powerful, he defends the run. And really, even outside of that, he's athletic, he's pretty fast, he's versatile. You could drop him into coverage, which we know Aaron Glenn loved to do with Aiden Hutchinson and Levi Onwuzurike. I know that Josh Paschal didn't live up to that second round pick. And a lot of that had to do with injuries. A lot of that had to do with just never taking that step in his progression. But JT Tuimoloau proved that he could. He's proven to be healthy. He's proven to take that step to the next level. And after a fantastic season at Ohio State, I see no reason why he can't continue to grow at the NFL level. And even if you select him in the second round, even if you take him with the 60th overall pick, or you trade back and take him in the 40s to 50s, I think 5, 6, 7 sacks in his rookie season is more than enough to justify that pick. If they bring him in and as a rookie, he puts up 6.5 sacks, puts up 10, 12 tackles for loss, and is healthy all season long, defends the run really well, and gets to the quarterback a few times, I think that's a pick well spent. I think that's a pick the Lions are willing to gamble on to get a player like JT Tuimoloau. So with that being said, that is my analysis, I suppose, of JTT on the season. I think he'd be a great fit for Detroit from a structural and a scheme standpoint. I think he'd be a good value in the second round as well. Of course, like I said earlier, let me know down in the comments below your opinions on JTT. Do you like him? Do you not like him? I'd love to hear your comments down below. But with all of that being said, that's all I got for you guys right now. Thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, And as always, go Lions.